How's it going?
Good evening. I'd like to call the March 10th, 2016 public hearing, special meeting, public work session order. This time we will stand for a moment of silence and afterwards the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Lamb. Please stand. Thank you. Mr. Lamb?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. At this time, Mr. Lamb, give our mission statement.
The mission of the Portsmouth Public Schools is to challenge the minds, challenge the bodies, and challenge the dreams of all students while focusing on excellence.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Next item is attendance. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bridgewood.
Present.
Reverend Fleming.
Here.
Mrs. Hines. Present. Mr. Lamb.
Present.
Mr. Nance.
Here.
Reverend Patillo.
Present.
Dr. Whitaker.
Present.
Mrs. Williams. Present. Mr. Payne.
Present.
All members are present.
Thank you. The next item of the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and there is one correction. If you look at under item 4.3, which is contract renewal RFP number 815-P1213 sponsorship agreement. We're going to delete that this evening, and then we'll discuss this on the March 23rd meeting. 24th meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Second. Roll call vote.
Mr. Bridgewood.
Yes.
Reverend Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Hines.
Yes.
Mr. Lamb.
Yes.
Mr. Nance.
Yes.
Reverend Patillo.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Parent.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. At this time, we will go into closed session. Mrs. Williams, would you read the motion, please?
I move that the board enter into a closed meeting under provisions of section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia for the following purpose. Consideration of various personnel matters, including the assignment, performance, and resignation of specific school employees as permitted under subsection A.1.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? There being no discussion, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bridgewood.
Yes.
Reverend Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Hines.
Yes.
Mr. Lamb.
Yes.
Mr. Nance.
Yes.
Reverend Patillo.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Parent.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Now we're back in open session. I'm happy to do that for the camera. When we're open, I didn't. You gotta tell them when you're open and when you're closed.
I'm sorry. Can you get the two cards?
Where are they?
About 10 minutes.
Need two. Just give you a hand.
Superintendent out.
You will give to the gentleman. Mr. Brady. I don't have any extras. It's in board docs.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the public hearing. This time I'll call on the Superintendent Tracy to present the Superintendent's proposed 2016-17 operating budget. Dr. Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Parent. Members of the board, yes. Tonight we will present the 16-17 proposed budget. Mr. Steele is out sick tonight, so Ms. George Brittany will assist me in the presentation. The agenda will include the statement of needs, proposed budget. We'll have highlights for all funds, general operating funds, and then we'll talk about next steps. The highlights of the proposed budget. The budget is based on the governor's proposed budget from December of 2015 that was released. This takes into account level funding from the city of $52.4 million. The full fiscal year 17 support of the 2016 pay raise, which you all know went into effect in January. So this year's budget will include the full year of that increase that we gave. For the upcoming fiscal year, there will be no pay raise included in that. In our Virginia retirement system, VRS, there's an increased employer contribution, right sizing of positions based on the comprehensive staffing model and ADM decreases. And with that, if you remember, we went through that at our last meeting where we had Dwight demonstrate how we looked at ADM for each of the schools, looked at the allocation to make sure that we were within the SOQ with those. So we have some schools that will gain teachers, some will lose some, but that's based on the number of students. And that's something that we realized that we needed to take a look at, because we talk about how our ADM, our average daily membership, decreases, but what are we doing about that? The winter break is still included for the 10-month non-exempt employees. Increased funding for special education in general funds, which is previously funded in grant funds. And Brittany will talk more about that when she gets into the overall numbers of the budget. It also includes the local match increase for the security officer grant. We will reapply for the grant, and hopefully we can expand it from secondary to elementary schools. That's one of the pieces that we've asked the city. We've talked with them about increasing the security personnel into our elementary schools. Our energy lease finance agreement payment with Amoresco, we're in the final year of that, so we'll have to pay that amount, and that's right at $1 million. We have a healthcare plan year 2017, no increase to the employer share. We also have increased tutoring budgets for the schools and increased athletic funding for our schools. And I'll turn it over now to Brittany.
Within the superintendent's proposed budget, right now we're anticipating a total of $191.6 million. This is across all of our funds. Within the general fund, we're anticipated $143 million. You'll see that this is a increase from the previous year, the year that we're in now, fiscal year 16. And that is mainly due to increased state funding of approximately $2 million and additional $1 million within the $52.4 million from the city. Within the grants funds, you also will see another increase, and this is mainly due to some increased funding from state grants, and also we hired a grants writer in fiscal year 16, and she is aggressively pursuing grants, so we're anticipating an increase from her efforts. Additionally, with the cafeteria fund, that has stayed pretty consistent. Textbook fund, main reason for the increase is due to additional state funding. And then for the risk management fund, this is the biggest jump that you'll see. Majority of this, approximately $18 million, this is due to us moving to a self-insured health program. With that, instead of PPS paying Optima a fully insured premium rate, what we're doing is we're paying ourselves. So when we pay ourselves, we need to make sure that we account for those funds separately because they're earmarked for us to pay actual health expenses. So we actually have to show the activity and what's going on in our self-insurance plan. So that's why you see a large jump from the year that we're in now to the proposed budget for fiscal year 17. And the move to account for the self-insurance in the risk management fund, this is currently pending city council approval. Right now, we account for all of that activity in the general fund. Within the general fund, this is a further breakout of what the $143 million represents. As we stated, we're anticipating $52.4 million from the city. State funds, $73.2 million. Sales tax, which is also flows through the state, $15.6 million, which is the last line. And federal funds, pretty consistent and flat from the previous year at $600,000, and other funds, approximately $1.5 grand. When you look at the general fund by itself, by our expenditure categories, in the previous presentation that was provided approximately 2 weeks ago, the amounts that were within each category were different, and I'm going to go through and explain what has changed from the previous budget presentation. Within the instruction category, you'll see we're anticipating $105.3 million. This has actually went down approximately $300,000 from the previous presentation. And that is due to the fact we're trying to move a lot of our special education Medicaid reimbursable costs from grants funds to general fund, because if we pay for those items out of a grant, then we can't be reimbursed by Medicaid. So we want to continually move to shifting the way that we strategize funding special ed. So you'll see, if you do a comparison between the last budget presentation, you'll see a decrease in instruction of approximately $300,000, but you'll see an increase in the administration, because that is where we account for our OT, PT, and speech services that directly go to our special education students. Additionally, within transportation operations, slight changes there. That is mainly, that is mainly due to us kind of realigning the budget to be more in line with what we've been seeing with actual costs for the last previous years. And then the last item, fund transfers, that has went up approximately $15,000, and that's because we wanted to make sure we accounted for the estimated amount of unpaid lunches that we take care of for our students who do pay for lunch, and maybe that day they didn't have lunch funds to pay. We still make sure that they get a lunch, but food services still has a cost to cover, so the general fund has been covering that cost for those kids. And like I said, we estimate that to be approximately $15,000. So next steps for the schools, we're going to continue to work through the budget based on the school board priorities. What we presented is the superintendent's proposed items. So if from the school board's perspective, things that need to be changed, we will make sure to work those in. And also, as more current information about revenue and expenditures becomes available, we'll make sure to account for that within our budget. The school board will then approve the budget. I believe that will be March 24th, and that will be submitted to the city. And then we'll work with the city to finalize fiscal year 17. One item I wanted to make sure that I highlighted just recently, I think maybe a day or two ago, we received information that the House and the Senate have came to an agreement concerning the budget for fiscal year 17 and fiscal year 18. And with that, one thing that is kind of a big deal and what we wanted to point out is the House and the Senate have agreed to include a 2% raise starting in fiscal year 17. So currently within the superintendent's proposed budget, there is not a 2% increase. So depending on what's finalized with the state, then that is something that we will have to work in, and that will be a major change that we'll need to work through. But right now, we don't know how much state funds we'll get for that. So, that's a very big question mark that we definitely have to keep on our radar. And within the board packet, there should be a copy of the superintendent's proposed budget. That just gives some greater detail into what's included in the budget and provides some analysis of changes from year to year.
Questions? President Patel?
I just wanted to clarify a couple things. With the winter break, that was something that wasn't guaranteed every year. Right. So I want to thank Dr. Bracey and his team for, that's approximately about $500,000 they had to find to be able to cover winter break for our employees, just so they know that. And also with the city funding, it's been a lot of rumors out that we're getting an increase from the city. 52.4 was level from last year, right, but we actually gave $1 million of it back, right, because we paid a lease payment early, correct?
Yes, that is
so 52.4 is level, so we're not getting an increase.
That's right.
From the city at all. And actually, when I was perusing the budget, we actually pay almost $2 billion back to the city in expenses anyway. That is normally not known, so I just want to make that public so they can actually hear that and know that we're not getting an increase. It's actually level from last year.
Right, you're right. It's been stated that we're asking for 1.2 million more in this year's budget.
That's not correct.
That's right.
Thank you.
It's level funded. And also, it was the city's recommendation that we put the health insurance into the risk management line and take it out of the general.
Yes, that's what they do it that way.
Yeah. The way the city does it, they recommended that we do it that way.
Yeah.
So it won't be lumped in together.
Yeah.
Right. And at our joint liaison meeting that we had, we're still, and I think you're probably still talking about getting additional funds to pay for the kindergarten instructional system.
Yes.
But that's not in this budget. So that's something that we've talked with them.
She was first.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Question about the 2% raise in the state, but from the governor's office, is that SOQ funded positions only? Is that teachers only? Do we know the details of that? And
I know it would be SOQ positions only, and currently the state funds approximately 2/3 of the SOQ, so that's where that difference we would need to figure that out.
okay.
Lamb?
Just two questions, and maybe I've missed this because of hearing or so forth. You explained that we were trying to move away from the Medicaid payments, away from grants, and put this into the general, pay for it out of the general fund. Hence, that's why the instruction category went up. What was the rationale for that, again, for moving away from the grants?
When we pay for special education costs out of the grants fund, then we can't be reimbursed for Medicaid for them. So just by using operating funds, then Medicaid will reimburse us a certain percentage of what we've paid out.
Okay. And secondly, and again, this is where if I've missed this somewhere, the increase in the athletic budget, where is that increase is going towards what exactly?
Each one of the high schools, and I believe the middle school, there's an allocation spreadsheet within the superintendent's proposed budget, but each received this year, I believe it was $20,000. So in next year's budget, that's been bumped up to $30,000. So additional $10,000 allocated to athletics.
And rationale?
This has come out of, I believe this was a previous effort to increase athletic funding for our students. So this is just making sure that we continue with that trend. I don't know how long ago that was set up, but it's just increasing what was already, I guess, established or expected for athletic funding.
This goes back 7 or 8, maybe Bedford. Ms. Brickman, you probably know that, because I don't remember it being seed money
Yeah.
for the high schools,
Yeah, I
and then
think it's about 3.
Yeah.
About 3 or 4.
Yeah,
If I remember correctly. It hasn't been that long ago.
Right.
Because that was seed, like you said, that was the initial seed.
right,
For to give them a little bit more than what they did.
Right.
Give them, to try to meet their needs. Is
right,
the proper,
exactly.
proper way to put it.
Mr. Nance, and then Mr. Reverend Patel.
So, we've discontinued art, music, enrichment type after-school programs in the middle schools. Is that correct?
Discontinued them? For what, next year?
Well, I heard this year we stopped.
No. What happened when we
And I'm sorry to ask you this.
oh no, you're fine. When we froze everything around February 18th or whatever it was, we took a look at the budget to make sure that we knew exactly where we were, so that we could look at all the requisitions and purchase orders that were to be processed.
Right.
So now, for example, the music that you're referring to, there were some activities initially that were on the schedule that were on hold. Now, they may have gotten canceled, some of them, but I talked with the music supervisor yesterday, and to make sure that what is it that you need, so that we can make sure that we can look at that and get those funded. So she knows that we're working on those, because I think she's already sent out a revised schedule until we know exactly, until she gets the word in terms of how we're going to do the other events that were scheduled. And we talked about this about an hour ago. So after we finish this process, we're going to get back on. We have not just music, you have other requisitions and purchase orders that are in place that we have to go through to make sure that we're looking at them based on need basis versus wants basis. We want to make sure that we don't run into the problem of having that surplus of money that we had in past years. So we're just putting the plan in place so that we can detail the spending that you will see.
Right, and I don't mean to be confrontational at all, but I read in a publication I got from the SBA today that finding more value in immersion in the arts than a football program. Evidence-based type thing. So that's why I raised the question here tonight.
Right. Well, we're moving from STEM to STEAM, so we're looking at increasing the arts. But music has been the larger recipient of the fund. Right. Now, even within that, we want to make sure that we spread some of that out to the other divisions within, because we want to try to give them all the attention that they deserve.
Right.
Not just one over the other.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question. Is there a dashboard or something, or a spreadsheet that you could look at that tells you so many SOQ funded positions? It's Mr. Smith and Mrs. Jones and Mr. Patel, and these are funded by this such and such, and these are funded by special ed grant. Do you have that?
Yes, that's something that we have. That's within our staffing tool.
And do the principals know about this? And is it? I hate to be confusing, but just like in the Navy Yard, when they're working in a shop, there's a certain budget, and the USS whatever Shiloh may have this many hours, and you're paid on that bill. And I just want to make sure that we know who the SRQ people are and what have you, to hone it down some more so we know. Thank you.
Reverend Patello, and then Dr. Whitaker.
Just two things. First, to kind of address what Mr. Nance just stated about the SOQ positions, that's one of the big decisions that they were referring to, because it's been the board's policy in the past that if one group was offered a raise, they did it for everyone.
Right.
So they would have to analyze the cost of that, and that would be a major decision that we as a board would have to make along with the staff. So I do understand why Mr. Nance asked that question. And secondly, I totally agree with increasing the athletics as much as we can to put our students in line with other divisions. And I also want to make sure that we still are working on that policy for not only athletic trips, but also other curricular activity trips, as far as their planning and assessing costs and making sure that they're where they need to be before trips are taken, and also to help us understand what kind of funding they need, you know, in the budget year before, you know, we get to that point there, having to come to ask for funding because they don't have it.
Right. Okay. Dr. Whitaker and then Mrs. Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to say that I agree with the increase for the athletic funding, and I hope that we can also increase funding for the other activities as well. I had a question about the instructional assistance. Is that included in the assistance?
You talking about the winter break or?
No, for the
additional.
No,
That's not, Dr. Patton and I met today, and that's something that they're still looking at this time on their end, because that's one of the items that we asked them as far as helping us with that. That we had an additional, I think 44 we identified that we would need to be fully staffed, every kindergarten teacher to have an instructional assistant.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Chairman Parent. I just wanted to clarify, too, from the last year's budgeting process, and because we were so far going over with finally getting all of our purchase orders in, that it went over into October or whatever, the superintendent had presented to us that he would cut off the spending for them to present their budget plan like February or March, so we wouldn't be so far out trying to get these goods and services delivered. So it wasn't like he was freezing their spending for that. He's just trying to make sure that he can get this school division on a proper spending plan, and they follow the rules and guidelines of when's the last time you could purchase something that you pay for in this fiscal year. So that's the reason where a lot of people were saying, oh, they have a spending freeze. That was just to get us in line financially, so that at the end of the year we are on target. We know exactly what we have. We don't have all these surpluses left over. And it was also something that City Council and the mayor asked that we try to do. So we have been working very well with Dr. Patton, the city manager. Mr. Parent and I met with the city council liaisons, who were Mr. Meeks and Dr. Whitaker and Councilman Meeks. And we discussed, we had a meeting, I guess about three and a half hours. So we all want to be transparent, and we want to do the right thing and to rebuild that trust among each board.
And one of the things, and I'll look at Dr. Taylor, you know, when the years pass, we've always, as administrators, always were told that you can't spend your money until sometimes mid-August. Well, you know, your budget is passed and ready to go July 1. Because of the type of financial system that we had to wait until the middle of August, sometimes 1st of September. Now, as an instructional leader, and I already have my school improvement plan. I mean, I've written my school improvement plan, and I'm ready to go. You certainly don't want to wait until October, November, and December to order instructional supplies that you know, because you've got it based on the results of your standards of learning, and you know the curriculum areas where you need resources. So now what Dr. Bracey's trying to do is to have his principals and his instructional staff make sure that we are budgeting strategically, and it's based on our current data. You don't wait till, I remember years ago, May and June, we were rushing to spend money, because we had all that money left over. And you just don't do business that way. I mean, we have a strategic plan, and Dr. Taylor is working with her staff, and they have a strategic plan, and it is a new day. It may be uncomfortable for some people who have always done it the other way, but that's not the way you do business. And we are a business, but yet our main goal is that we're focused on instruction. And if you wait until mid-year and order instruction supplies, it's really too late. So this is more, I mean, it's a budget issue, but it is a very strong instructional issue to make sure that students and the teachers have what they have early so they can use it. So, yeah, I've heard comments from teachers, and I've given them that logic, and I think when people look at that, that makes sense. So, are there any other questions you may have for Dr. Bracey? Mrs. Hines?
Well, just along that line of freezing so that we know what we have so that we can better plan. Part of it is you've got to take care of your house as well. Yeah. And so when we have money that's sitting out there, sometimes it's unallocated where it could be used in a better situation. But I know several times I've picked up the phone because I get messages, text messages, phone calls about, what's going on with this, what's going on with that. Dr. Bracey has always said if they have a need, they can pick up the phone and call me. It's not the fact that we're out of money, it's just the fact that we're trying to track our money better. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that you might have to pick up the phone and call somebody, but that doesn't mean your answer is no, just because we've said stop spending at this point in time. So he's told me that, I know, probably 7 times over the past 5 weeks. So I just want to reiterate it one more time.
Reverend Patillo.
And I just want to publicly state also that I want to thank Dr. Bracey and his team because it's difficult to be on the finance committee. I see firsthand it's difficult to meet the needs of the division when you have constant unexpected expenses that come before you. Like VRS, they will require us to pay another $4 million, into VRS this year, but that money is not replaced.
Right.
We're not getting $4 million more from the city, so we have to find how to put that money into VRS and still keep the division running smoothly and not affect the classroom and the instruction. And that can be very difficult. So when people say that, they have enough money or they don't need any money, I hope they really pay attention to the budget process and what's being asked of us. That there are requirements the state will ask of us, but the state won't give us the money we need to meet that requirement.
Right. Exactly.
So I just want to thank you all for the diligence and the hard work you put into this budget and make sure that our children's classroom sizes are not affected.
Right.
And instruction continues to be going forward in the school system. I thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Dr. Bracey, do you have any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Now we go to the next item, which is the
public speaker. I got 2 speakers.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We didn't have any speakers. All right.
Well, I got them when I was looking in there.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Randy Bailey.
Would you like me? This is the,
I think you can stand right there.
okay, fine. This is the first time I've ever come over to address you all. I normally go to Butler City Council. They're much more fun. The concerns I have with the school budget is I went through last year's, and you have like 12 administrative assistant positions that are paid over $100,000. And I'm just kind of curious who those people are and what they do for $100,000. It seems to me that if those positions are, nefarious, you could get rid of them. And that's certainly 5 more teachers for 6 more teachers that you could put in the classrooms. You have graduation coaches in each school, and when I went to school, that was a guidance counselor's job. And again, there's like $60,000 that the person's paid. There's another teacher. And then you've hired this guy for phys ed that, to be honest with you, he doesn't need to go out and get contracts and pull in whatever. The students that you have in schools, they have their own notoriety. And you've seen that here lately with some of the things that these kids have gone out and done. They've gotten themselves in the newspaper and on the news, and there's your notoriety to bring things to the city. Let the children do it, because they can. You don't need some adult to run around and shake somebody's hand and swab somebody's butt when the kids are the best salesmen that you have. You don't need to pay somebody to do that. I've done 30 years in the military, 10 years in the Justice Department. I'm well versed on budgets. I've had to handle anywhere up to $150, $160 million a year. And education-wise, I've got 2 doctorates, 3 masters, and 2 bachelors. So, you know, I have a good understanding of most everything that goes on in here. And for the most part, a lot of things are good. I do have a question about what some of the children are learning, because when I came back up here from Florida, the VA told me that my PTSD was such that I needed something to do, so I went over to ECPI with a check to take some classes. I met a young man that graduated from IC Norcom, and he was telling me that he was a GED tutor, but he had a hard time getting things to work with to teach the students. So he said he was using a USA Today newspaper. Now, we thought that was innovative, until he made the comment that he'd opened it to the states page, and he could teach them about all 51 states. And that's what we found out, that he was counting Washington, D.C. as a state. Now, 4 or 5 of us veterans were sitting at the table, and we asked him, well, why are there 50 stars on the flag? And he told us because we had won 50 major battles over time. We asked him why there were 13 stripes. He said because we had won 13 wars. We asked him why the flag was red, white, and blue, and he said because the guy who designed it, Benjamin Franklin, those were his favorite colors. And we all sat there looking at this young man like, what were you taught in the Portsmouth City schools? And that's when he started explaining the SOL exams and all the stuff that they get taught, and how it's basically they're taught a test. And that's when I started looking at what goes on in the school system here. And I think if there's a way that you can get away from teaching these kids a test and you can actually teach them an education, I think that they would benefit a lot more. Because I know all of us in this room were brought up a lot differently, and I think we got a much better education than what the children may be getting now. And it's not our fault. It's what the government has been forcing you people to do. And I think there's got to be something that can be done to help the children. And I certainly hope that, you know, there's some way that you can find to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bailey, sir, I didn't want to say anything, but I just want to make clear that, you know, the pay scale for employees is public knowledge. And I reviewed it once more when I heard, I think it was Taxpayer Alliance, somebody mentioned that. And we don't have 12 administrative assistants making over $100,000.
It was line items.
It may be administrators, which includes principals.
Well, it said administrative assistant is how it was line itemed in the budget last
Okay,
year.
I need to make sure it's not written incorrectly, but we don't have any administrative assistants.
Might get that kind of
$100,000. I just want to make that clear to you.
Okay, but that's how it was line itemed in the budget last year.
Okay, and
that's where I questioned what it was,
Okay.
because I'm thinking their secretary someplace making all this money.
No, sir. No.
I'm sure they would.
We'd already told them. These ladies, they have me up on that.
I'll make sure that it's a superintendent can check to make sure it's written correctly.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue. But thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Gail Pittman.
evening. This is a first for me. I don't speak for the Portsmouth Education Association because I have over 700 members who can speak very well for themselves, but none of them are here tonight. And I feel compelled to say to this board that I ask that you reconsider any effort that, or I would ask you to consider a raise for your employees. It has been said that raises were given in January of 2016, and that's absolutely correct. What you have not said is that every other school division in Southampton Roads gave raises starting July 1 of 2015. Portsmouth employees were the last to get a raise for this school year. And that raise then equates only half of what other school divisions gave their employees. It was a raise, so it does move forward. It wasn't a bonus, so it has to be funded for next year. But there is more money coming from the state, and I have not seen figures. I don't know if you have or anybody else has seen what has finally been passed by the General Assembly. We know there's more money there. I can't say that there's money there for a raise, complete raise for all of your employees. But I would say that I have had experienced teacher after experienced teacher after experienced teacher, employee after employee say to me, I can tell you where every job opening is in Southampton Roads. We cannot afford to lose employees that have stuck with you through the hardest time of no raises for year after year after year. They stuck with you because they believe in this school division. They believe in our children. But they are giving up on Portsmouth. And it breaks my heart to have to say that. But we cannot afford to lose people you have invested years and years of staff development in trust with your children, and say to them, there's no raise coming to you. And that stands for all of your employees, whether it's the bus driver that greets that child from the time they step on the bus, to the cafeteria worker that feeds them the 2 meals that they may, only 2 meals that they may get that day, to the teacher that loves that child, whether they've got 30 of them, 35 of them, or 7 special needs children. You trust your employees with our greatest asset in this city. That makes your employees your greatest asset. And I beg you to find a way to put a raise into this budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mark Godoldig-Yatrovsky.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Nance.
Thank you. Along the same lines with what Ms. Pittman is speaking about, we saw in the budget presentation that there's no increase in employee contribution to our health plan. What about employee contribution? Is there an increase this coming year with that?
No increase to employees.
Okay, no reduction in percentage of coverage or increase in co-pays?
Those have changed.
Those will change for the next year? Or are they changed
The plan year
already?
started in January, so those are already in effect. So what's in effect now?
Okay, but we don't anticipate for this next budget year another increase? Or do we? 12 months.
The plan year is from January to December, so half of the year will follow the same items that are in effect for the health plan now.
Okay, thank you.
Brother Dillon.
And I want to state also that I believe all of us on the board agree that our teachers deserve a raise every single year.
Right.
I mean, every year. And I go as much as I can to schools to just personally thank them for what they do. And I think the raise that we put in effect for January, Brittany, was about it talks about $4 million in the budget additional.
For this
For
year.
the pay raise.
Right.
With this year's, yeah.
It was another $4 million. So that's how much it would take for us to fund another 2% raise. So with no additional money coming from the city, and on top of us having to put another $4 million into VRS, that means you're looking at $8 million to do an additional 2% raise and the money for VRS. So I'm not sure how much the state is going to give us. I'm not sure it's going to be $8 million, but it would be extremely difficult to probably find that amount of money in a strained budget. But I don't want teachers to ever think that we don't appreciate them and that we don't believe they deserve more, because they do. And they're the most underpaid profession in the world.
Absolutely.
You know, and I say often that they train athletes, presidents, doctors, and lawyers, but they pay less than all of them.
Right.
And I think we all agree with that. This is a tough position to be in, you know, with a city that is not producing more as far as, you know, funding for the school division. But
well, also one point about the PPS increase and the employer increase, we have to fund that money. It's not coming from the employee. So you have to find money in the budget, because otherwise we would have to take that from the employee. So their costs would go up that way too.
Mr. Nance, did you have your hand up?
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Are there any other comments? Do you have any other speakers?
Mr. Yatrovsky.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, honorable board members, and fellow citizens. At the 3 budget workshops that the city and the school board and the school system co-hosted in January and early February, the citizens participating indicated a very strong level of support for the idea of reducing the student-to-teacher ratio. And the interesting and gratifying part of that is that among the participants, those with children of school age, which was one of the demographics, were 20%, roughly 20% of the participation. So even the folks without children in the school system recognized how important it is. I would like you to do your best to fund reductions in the student-teacher ratio. And if you cannot make that sale to the city administration, I would ask that you provide that as an opportunity cost that is not being met. The problem I've had in past years is I advocate for more funding for the schools, and I try to go in line with what the school system itself requests from City Council. I think it's a mistake, though, when you reach an agreement with the administration recognizing the fiscal constraints that the city has, and you are being a good partner by not demanding something that you know isn't possible within the context of the city's revenue stream. But I think it's important that they not think that they have fully funded the needs of the school system, because that then becomes a public relations ploy that certain people use. It's important that the public understand that you are doing your part to share the burdens and keep the schools going, but these are the unmet needs, and it's important to quantify those. I think it's important to quantify the foregone raises if you are unable to allocate more money for staff. So I hope that you will take that into consideration in your negotiations and your presentations. One other item I'd like to raise, in contrast to the previous speaker, I do not think it is a mistake for the school system to have somebody who is telling the story. Students are representatives and ambassadors to the community, but they see part of the picture. They tend to see what affects them directly, and there is a bigger world than what you see sitting inside the school system. So definitely you need to have a spokesperson who can ably express what the needs, what the successes, and the opportunities are for the system as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have no more speakers.
There be no more speakers? Yes. That would be at the pleasure of the board. I think that you've already been heard. It's at the pleasure of the board. He wants to make one statement.
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
You're looking at increasing security in the schools, and I would like you to look at the fact that in the community, there are a lot of retired law enforcement officers. And if you were to dive into this pool, you could get individuals into the schools at a much cheaper rate. It would not affect the current serving officers, and you would get well-trained professionals to be in the schools. They would be older individuals, and they'd be somebody that the children could look up to, and they could get some experience from. And the older officers would probably enjoy being with the children and helping them out.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Mr. Nance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That would be all well and good, but most retired police officers who aren't on the old city retirement system are covered under the VRS. They're paid under the VRS. And there's a conflict with that grant and them earning getting a retirement from the VRS. Is that correct, Dr. Bracey?
That's correct. We pursued that avenue.
You and I pursued that quite heavily.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, no other comments. All right, moving on. Preschool registration guidelines. Dr. Bracey.
Yes, Mr. Parent. A while ago, we sent out some information just to update the board members of the changes with the preschool registration guidelines. So what we wanted to do was to add that to the agenda to give more clarity on what those effects are. So, Dr. Taylor, you...
We have provided each of you, Mrs. Hales is here with us. She is our Special Projects Coordinator, and she has provided a booklet, a packet for you with various information around our Virginia Preschool Initiative. Most recently, there have been some changes with regard to preschool registration and for those students who are eligible according to the state requirements. And I want to highlight that for you, as it is the yellow sheet in your packets, and it is very specific in the 4 categories under which students must now qualify. So that is going to be very significant for our upcoming pre-K, and we wanted to make the board aware of that in the event that you need to have some conversation and discussion around what our criteria are and how we select students for pre-K. In addition to that, we provided information here on the actual verification report and how we certify our programs. There's another packet here that gives information around the Virginia Department of Education budget and what we get in our state share and our local share there, and Ms. Hales has highlighted that for you. We also have our confidential eligibility sheet that we use for preschool registration included here, just for your information. And then she has also provided information on surrounding school divisions and what criteria they use and how they advertise for preschool as well. So this is all just for your information.
Any questions? Mr. Nance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How do we address families that are doubled up? They're not homeless, but they're doubled up and not home.
I'm not sure I understand.
Where,
Oh, shared housing. I think that there are 4 factors here: homelessness, or parents and guardians of school dropouts, or students with special needs, which is our early childhood program, or there is an income limit. And if they fall within that income limit, so any one of these characteristics would be used, or qualities would be used for eligibility. Ms. Hales, do you want to speak more on that?
I think he's asking if the 2 families live together.
Right.
Okay. That still goes on the person who's registering the child. For example, if you have
two single mothers sharing an apartment?
2 single mothers. If you have 2 single mothers sharing a residence, then it would still rely on that mother's income because she would fall under the homeless realm of where she resides. And I think what she has to do is provide proof that she lives with someone else, and then they have to have their proof of residency. And that the proof of residency guidelines is also listed on the flyer as well. We tried to make sure that we covered every single thing. Now, one of the things that we're tasked with, if someone says they're a dropout, there's just no way for us to verify that. So we're going to try to go by the guidelines that are listed there. And what Mrs. Strogo from the Virginia Department of Education, from what I'm understanding, that the governor has passed through the House and the Senate, that there may be some local criteria that we may be able to add to the grant. They give us a certain number of allocations, and so we still can't go over the number that they give us, but we may be able to play with who we accept into the program and who we cannot. The issue that's come up is that we have several families in the program now who don't meet the guidelines, and so those are the ones that we're having the biggest feedback from. Those that we have allowed in the past, and they have someone else coming in this year, and now we're saying that they can't get in. And those are the guidelines that have been passed down from the BDOE. So we're just trying to make sure that we stay in compliance and that we're able to get our money and that we're using the grant money appropriately.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. Well, a lot of this address verification, people who have been transient in nature in our community, their W-2 for one or their 1099 may not reflect their residence. Okay? That's going to be the big one. Okay? The phone bill won't, because most likely it's a mobile phone.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's probably not an account, it's whatever.
The proof of residency is what we use for anybody enrolling in any school, whether it's
Right.
pre-K, elementary, middle, or high school. We got that directly from the Office of Youth Risk.
And on the application or the eligibility sheet, the family status, age of mother and time of birth, is that for statistical information for us, or does that play a part of it?
It's just for statistical purposes. That does not play any part in the registration process.
Thank you.
Mrs. Williams, then Dr. Whitaker, and then Mr. Lamb.
I guess my question is, we've had preschool for some time now. Is this a brand new grant or something that is a variation of the old grant, or were we not following? Because before you could get into preschool is...
The grant hasn't changed. This year is the year that they're transitioning into the new criteria. So, and when they gave out the guidelines from last year, there is a snippet in there that states the criteria to be used for 15-16 only, but transitioning for 2016, those 4 criteria that are listed up there are what they're using.
Okay. So before, we always had the grant, we just didn't have this criteria.
Exactly.
Right. We had that criteria, but we were able to keep some local criteria for enablement. There was always an income part of it, but we were able to allow other students in based on our locally criteria year that we've added. And there may be a chance that we're able to do that, but as soon as I hear from her, I will share that information.
Dr. Whitaker.
Do we know approximately how many students may not be able to attend because of the new criteria that we're using?
We don't know, and we won't know. We begin registration the first week in April, and so once we get through the registration and see how many students we actually have registered, and registration will go, we're having the public registration, but we'll be registering on through the summer as long as we stay within our allotted slots that they allow us.
Because I would hate to see students who need the program turned away just based upon, the income eligibility guidelines or the other guidelines. So you mentioned a local criteria.
Right, and as soon as I have, they let us know for sure if we're able to add that, I will provide that.
What has that been in the past?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It all depends on what we establish as a locality here in Boston.
Okay.
These are brand new guidelines, and I don't know that they have ever been this stringent before. And so this is new territory for all of us. And I think that what will happen is there will probably be, as Ms. Hales has said, they're reviewing it now because the state, I'm sure, has gotten some feedback from different localities and is probably looking at, what are we going to do for those students who don't meet these guidelines? And so as a school division, we will be assessing that as well. What we do know is that we have to stay within these guidelines in order to retain this grant and be in compliance.
Right.
Now, moving forward, if the state doesn't give us an option to include some local options for our other students, then we as a school division would have to vet that and see what we can do and what we can create as far as opportunities for students who don't fall within these categories. And that would be a regional thing. I'm sure that the regional superintendents would be looking at it.
And I had one last question. I know that the dates and the times they've been already published, right? But I was wondering, is there any way to add either an evening time or a Saturday time? Because these are work hours.
You mean for the registration time?
For registration.
Normally registration was over early, so we had what we picked Wednesday as our late day. Mind you, most of the staff are hourly employees. So if we extend hours, then we're getting into the overtime because they're not salaried positions.
And that's something we can certainly look at because one of the things that we're doing is trying to be creative with our registrations for pre-K and kindergarten.
Right.
And during these hours, we're not just going to limit ourselves to places within the schools. We want to go out into the community where our stakeholders are frequenting, places like the grocery store or the different shopping centers that they frequent and see if we can reach out to them there because it's not always easy for people to come to our buildings, but we know they go to the grocery store. We know that they have to go get services in, some of the medical centers and things like that. So we're going to have some conversations about how we can be creative during the school day as well.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Lamb, and then Mrs. Williams, and then Science.
Possibly board member Nance and Attorney Meekins. That's right, you're both on the same level playing field. Might be able to answer part of this question too. Since we've brought up the homeless question, there was we've brought this law up before. There's a federal law that addresses homelessness. I just forgot the name.
McKinney-Vento.
Yeah, McKinney, okay. Whereas this is addressing, I guess, homelessness within the district. But with that law in play that says that if we have a homeless student from outside the district, that we have to provide transportation back to their home district. How does that play into preschool?
I think it would be the same for preschool as it is for kindergarten and K-12. That law is a federal law that we have to apply, the same, I think, across the board. But that's something that we could certainly explore. The homeless case, you can't just walk in and say you're homeless.
Right, correct.
There is a process that we go through to make sure that people are indeed homeless. And we have a homeless liaison who makes home visits. And so the bottom line is that we're going to make sure that, if we do have homeless children who come in, that we can provide the services for them.
Mrs. Williams and then Mrs. Hunt.
I know that we're going to vet this as soon as we get more information from the state or whatever. But I have been told that we do have teachers that I think we're able to attract and keep because they are able to bring their children to the preschools here as well. And then if they would have to pay more money for outside childcare, and they're not getting a raise or anything else, so we want to keep them in the system. So when we look at all the other issues, certainly look into that too.
Now, you're nodding your head, yes.
Yeah.
Does that mean
You're
yes?
right.
Or
Well, they've heard, I'm sure they've heard it too.
We've been fielding a lot of calls,
I'm
a
sure.
lot of calls, and we've been trying to give them correct information.
Yeah.
So that is one of the local criteria
That's
that
a
if we
perk.
decide to establish.
It is.
Add that if that was something that you think if we're able to do so. Then
Childcare is huge. Mrs. Hines.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to piggyback with Dr. Whitaker by asking that there are other places of registration. So thank you for thinking that way. Thank you for going to. And I just want to be clear, as for my thinking, to understand your thinking. Are you all anticipating a drop in students based on this criteria, or are you expecting an increase in students based on this criteria? I just want to make sure I'm understanding your concern with this. And I know that's hard to justify because you don't know what 4-year-olds are coming to you.
What I will say to you is that we have a very large free and reduced lunch population in Portsmouth. Based upon the data from that, we do not anticipate that there will be a drop in enrollment. That isn't the concern. In fact, we have had to turn away students in the past because we didn't have enough slots for them. The concern is that we can no longer offer services beyond the criteria that are established here. Okay. And so what we're trying to figure out is how we can provide services for those students who don't fall into these categories, because the idea is that all of our students need pre-K, as many as we can get in there. But we don't anticipate that we would have any lack of enrollment or any reduction in enrollment.
because we've had to turn students away all year because we were at our conference. So we've been having to turn away. They try to get in on the school year, and we have not been able to. So I don't foresee that it may be that much of a reduction in the numbers.
Well, this may not be a popular suggestion, but, you know, under the Fair Labor Standard Act, there's nothing that would prevent an exempt employee to work in the evening. So that means that principals and assistant principals and hourly, you know, there are other people that, you know, you were talking about having to pay for.
Do the registration?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are people out there that, and I agree, I think that we need to make sure, because there's a lot of parents that work and they don't get off until after 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yes.
We need to provide every opportunity, and if that means we have to, Dr. Bracy, if we have to ask principals and assistant principals and coordinators and specialists who are exempt to do it, they certainly can register.
Right. Well, we can stagger the schedule of those that are doing it. They can come in later.
Right.
Yeah, to accommodate.
Right, they're out.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that something you would like
We
to
could
see?
recommend that to this.
We can't do it. I'm just saying that, I was just saying this wasn't going to be a popular suggestion. But that's just a suggestion that may not be popular with other people. All right, Mr. Nance, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a point of reference, in section 722 of McKinney-Vento does provide that services will be rendered for preschool children as well. Okay? It's not just a K-12 program. It's covered under section 721. Thank you.
That's right.
All right, any other discussion? Moving on. Draft of the student representative to the school board policy. You have a copy of that. Mrs. Williams and I and Dr. Brace have been working on this, and you have a copy for your review. Mrs. Williams, you want to take the lead on this, or do you want, how do you want to do it?
We discussed this several meetings, discussion on the student representative to serve with us. And so Dr. Bracy and Chairman Parent, we met, discussed it over lunch, and I think Reverend Fleming, and it might have been Patilla, suggested too. So what we were recommending is that we get names, maybe the top 3 from each high school, and select a representative and an alternate. And when the representative could not be there, the alternate would fill in.
Right.
And we put in the criteria of attending at least 75% of the meetings.
Right.
And also a GPA of 2.5 or higher.
Right.
And you can look through here and see the application process, the recommendations from the teacher, the principal, or whomever. They would serve 1-year terms. The recommendations would come in April, and they would serve, and they do not attend closed meetings. They would not be privy to anything confidential or personnel issues. They would attend all the meetings, and if our meeting, sometimes we can get long-winded, but if they go past 10 o'clock, which we pray not,
Right.
they certainly can leave whenever they want because they have school the next day. And they should also receive the agenda before the meeting like we do, and there will be a time at the meeting where they can present the issues they have, from the school division or whatever. And work sessions, they can participate in the work sessions like we do. There will be a designated seating area for them, probably where the reporters or whatever sits or something. So I think, did I cover the most?
You did. You did. And this will be on the, March 24th. Okay. Mrs. Hines.
Thank you. And it says in here that they'll serve an annual term from July 1 to June 30. Are we asking that they come to the school board meetings in the summer? Or when will they start attending school board meetings? Would it be concurrent with when school starts?
We probably could make an adjustment in there, because I would think it would be just the school year. Yeah.
Okay.
They wouldn't want to be with us. We do take off, a month or two during the summer.
At least 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes. Please.
Yes.
But maybe we could adjust that to put in there, they would attend from September to May or something.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, one more piece in here.
Sure.
Are we gonna outlay basically what their orientation is gonna be as far as how to read the agenda, what the flow of order is, kind of like that mentor stewardship that we talked about?
Yeah.
Okay.
It says the chair and the vice chair. We're going to have an orientation and go through the agenda, Robert's Rule of Order, and so forth.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for bringing this. This is wonderful for students. It looks good on a resume. It looks good for future leaders, for our city, get them involved early. And
Right.
I appreciate you bringing it in front of us. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Moving forward. Review of the March 24th meeting, Dr. Bracy.
Okay. If you look at the draft for March 24th, item number 1 under information, 1.1 call letter, 1.2 public notice, number 2 the early session, 2.1 school board's proposed fiscal year 16-17 operation budget, 2.2 discussion. We have a readmission case, discipline case. 2.3 we'll have closed session. Number 3, opening of the meeting, call to order by Chairman Parent, moment of silence. We'll then have our Pledge of Allegiance. Victory Elementary School students will be doing the pledge and the statement at the board meeting. Our school board mission statement, Mr. Lamb will have the electronic vote by Ms. Chambliss. Then we will have the approval of the agenda. Presentation, school's attendance report for February 2016. Resolutions for this month, we will have our National Volunteer Appreciation Week and School Library and Media Center Appreciation Month. Approval of the minutes under item number 6. Number 7, public comment, non-agenda and board agenda items. Number 8, curriculum and instruction, our C&I report, Dr. Taylor. Number 9, human resources. 9.1, we'll have the monthly report, Mr. Ziegler. Electronic vote on the transaction report. Budget and planning, monthly report, Mr. Steele. 10.2, electronic vote. We have a placeholder for purchasing contract. We have an electronic vote for the budget revision. Electronic vote for the financial budget report. Student discipline case. We have the electronic vote. Number 12, superintendent monthly report. We have 2 electronic votes. Proposed school board operation budget for the 2016-17 school year and policy for student representative to the school board. 12.4, board members' comments and concerns. Item 13, adjournment.
Dr. Tracy, Mrs. Hines, and I think you and I had talked that we were going to try to have the art department to set up a display and honor and recognize some of the art students. That was your request?
Yes, sir.
So, and I think you were going to try to make sure that happens. That there will be an art display in the grand lobby.
In the grand lobby.
In the grand lobby.
Right.
Sounds like in the church. In the lobby. Is that taken care of?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then at that time, the students that are there, Mr. Lamb can present the little medals.
Okay. We can add another item down there if we need to.
I don't think we need to add the item. I just think
But they'll
to have the display.
okay.
But we want to recognize the art students, and I'm not sure of.
But we're also, we didn't want to leave out music. So music, they're going to provide something for us, a musical tribute as well.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, when we start talking about the arts, we don't want to favor
No,
one
please.
or the other. So that's why we included them as well.
Portsmouth is for people is always great.
Okay, yeah, that's already taken care of.
Thank you, sir. All right, thank you, Doctor. Board members report. Just got to, want to report here. Mrs. Williams.
I had a great time reading Green Eggs and Ham on Dr. Seuss's birthday in the school division. So they were excited, and so was I. I saw Dr. Bracy with his Dr. Seuss hat on all over Facebook. So I think it was a busy day for a lot of us out reading to students.
Any other? Tell them.
I'm not ready to report, but I just wanted to make sure I express my condolences to the family of Mr. Wayne Hilton, who passed, former assistant principal of Church High School teacher, and also a former 7th grade teacher of mine. So he was a great man and mentor, and my prayers are out to his family and to the Church High School family also.
Thanks.
His memorial service will be conducted on the 30th in Crocs.
Wayne Hilton.
And if anyone needs any information, I'll be glad to provide it to them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Sure.
Will we be recognizing the girls track team, Icing Oregon? It's the first time that a female team won a state meet in the history of icing Oakland High School. Yes.
Yes.
Will that be this month, or when's that going to be?
We're going to speak with the administration, and if we can get it up there this month, we will. All right. Then we may have a full house, because by that time, the boys will probably have won the state championship again. Yeah. We'll claim it.
We just have a lot of people. Mrs. Hunt.
Is our April meeting at Norcom, or is it our October meeting that's at Norcom?
April.
In one of our meetings at Norcom High School that we're doing out in public, is that in April?
It's April.
So maybe we can do recognitions then, since we'll be there and it is home, because this place gets crowded up here. You know, I mean, we all know that, but I think to be on their home turf at their home place to be
good.
You know, maybe that would be an option. That's up to the superintendent and the chair to. I'm just making a recommendation, as Mrs. Williams would say to somebody. The other thing.
Probably have more room.
Okay. The other thing is, and this is not going to be popular to echo Mr. Parent, with the fact that the board and the public has just received a copy of the budget and the budget book, would it be prudent of us? Would it be the right thing to do to have another public hearing before we adopt a budget, since the information came out so late, to give people a time to digest the budget and come back with any questions that they may have before we do adopt a budget? I'm thinking of time and everybody's time and everybody's effort. However, with the information that's gone out so late, would it be prudent and good stewards of us to possibly have, and it doesn't have to be a full meeting. I mean, you know, we could, if you can make it, great. If not, but I think we need to make ourselves available to those people that may have questions between now and March 24th. Thank you. I'm going to ask the chairman for that consideration, however you want, but I think we need to be good stewards and have that opportunity for people that may not have had an opportunity to look through our numbers.
Could they speak that night? Early?
My concern would be it would be too late to make any adjustments to the budget that the board or the superintendent may see fit at that time.
Dr. Price is going to have to look at his schedule, because
Mr. Chair.
yes, I'm sorry.
What is the date we have to have this submitted to the city manager's office?
April 1st by state code, I believe.
The board passed the city manager presents the proposed the 29th.
What does the code say?
I don't know, but I will tomorrow.
Well, I know on their calendar, she's supposed to present to city council at the 29th.
And Monday the 9th, the city council. Yeah. Monday the May 9th is the work session of the proposed budget of the city council, and then on Thursday, May 12th, the school board reviews the priorities, and then May 20th, it's May 26th, we adopt the final operating budget. So people will have opportunities to speak during these periods of time.
I think my concern and my question is more about the proposed budget going forward that we're putting in front of the state. That we're putting in front of city council.
Right.
Before our budget goes to city council. I think if there's anybody with anything that they would like to bring to us, I think they have an option to be heard before we adopt a budget that goes to city council.
Mr. Lamb.
I understand what board member Duncan Hines is saying, and I know I'm chairman this, and I concur with it, but unfortunately, I think what we're probably hitting up against right now, though, is a time limit with not only the state code of, someone just said April 1, but also, too, if you do another public meeting, don't you have, the agenda for that meeting has to be sent out 10 days beforehand, so
if you...
We don't have it.
Okay.
That like 10 days?
10 days to put it in the paper again.
10 days. Yeah.
10 days for the paper, but 72 hours for the public. It is to drop dead.
Right.
I think we've done it in the past where we've done a special meeting and that has to be posted 72 hours or 3 days before the meeting time. So I mean, they're.
Dr. Bracy, I'm going to leave that up to you to.
That's up to the board.
Well, I meant. Well, all right. Board members, today is the March 10th, and I need to know what your.
I think at least we'll have to check the availability of council chambers. For one thing, or in this room, I guess.
I think it's cutting it too close, so we have they have to have it, you said they're going to discuss it, what, March 29th?
29th.
Yeah, Dr. Patton's presenting her proposed budget.
And we're.
The 24th when we meet,
Yes.
Can people speak then? Well,
That's what I'm asking. Could we open it up to the public?
yeah, I mean, yeah, could we
public
do
comment?
that?
Right.
Because they do come for public comment, they can speak anytime, right? Non-agenda?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can still speak on it.
I mean, if there are any adjustments that you all direct us that we need to make, we can make those before she gets them on the 29th.
Right. Mr. Nance.
I see where the 10 days was. It's the official notification of a public hearing ad in the paper.
Right.
If you're going to have an additional meeting, it's not a public hearing, then I guess it would be, I understand that, but it could also be called a community budget meeting or whatever. I kind of agree. I mean, it's the first time we've seen it. Is there any way that the superintendent could check with the city manager and see if we can, what the drop dead date is for her for a budget?
Well, what was wrong with the idea of the people being announced that they should come at our
Okay.
meeting?
All right,
They could still
that would still be an agenda item, so there'd be an agenda item speaker.
Right.
That's what we were saying. Would that be? They talk about it?
I think so. I think as long as we have as long as
opportunity to speak.
correct, and as long as we have an opportunity to make adjustments as needed before the budget is adopted.
Well, if you look at the agenda, that you have public comment, non-agenda, and then you have public comment, board agenda. So the board agenda item would be the proposed operating budget. So they would have an opportunity to speak toward the budget before we adopt it.
I just want people to be
Absolutely.
aware that they can come and speak to it, speak about it, and have their voices heard before we act on it as a board.
Right.
Okay.
And then we,
Like I said, it wasn't going to be popular.
that's fine. I mean, we want to be as transparent, give the public.
And just make sure that, so that there's really no difference. Really, they can still come.
Because they come anyway.
Anyway.
Non-agenda, agenda speakers.
That's why we separated non-agenda with board agenda.
We have had, I'm sorry to interrupt, we have had a public hearing on the budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because you are required to have a public hearing.
Absolutely, at least one.
Okay,
We did it
so we've
tonight.
satisfied the legal requirements for that. I just want to make sure that we're ready.
That's correct.
Because you could just add a third topic there, say, to specifically address budget issues. So you have open mic or public comment, non-agenda, agenda, and budget, just to make sure people know that you're inviting those opportunities to be heard. But you're not dealing now with a legal requirement, you're dealing with
Right.
an elected
PR.
decision.
Right.
So in other words, we're committed as opposed to being compliant.
Right, exactly.
Right. So you could, instead of having non-agenda items, you could have budget agenda items. And that'd be 7.1, and then 7.2 would be non-agenda, and 7.3 would be board agenda.
that way
And then you.
Be a specific invitation.
Right.
I like that idea.
You like that idea?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So budget agenda items.
You're going to have a budget agenda item, which would be 7.1, and then 7.2 would be non-agenda items, and 7.3 would be board agenda items.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay.
Does that satisfy everybody on the board?
But does the public get to speak about the budget after the superintendent presents it again? You're not going to present it again? Okay.
It's a vote.
All right.
He does talk about it 2.1.
He had to open the early.
Right, so you do talk about it again.
At the 5:30?
They can't speak.
It's at 5:30.
I mean, okay, whatever. Because it used to be when we had agenda items, speakers or whatever, it would be after the issue had been presented and there was a motion and a second, then discussion, then we would ask, were there any agenda speakers? But that's the way it was, right? Right after all the formality.
We can do whatever we need.
You know, with 2.1, it says, I mean, that's the early session, and then when you go back out, I mean, we could, Dr. Bracy wanted to,
You could probably satisfy that question and answer in the early session. You can devote time for that during that period. Then you wouldn't have to add an agenda item at the regular. So you want to...
So you want to end it, leave it
The early session?
do it at the early session.
So
And we can answer any questions.
take it off, remove it to 7.1, leave it as it was, and we'll provide that opportunity during the early session.
Do like a 2.1A question and answer? Like a 2.1A underneath?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll work it out.
Let's work it out.
Yeah.
We'll work it out.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
I just want to make sure everybody has ample.
2.1.
You guys go, you know where we're going.
It's already.
We'll work it out.
Thank you.
We'll
I
work it out.
appreciate it, gentlemen.
Yes.
All right,
Just tell me later.
we'll get it done.
You can tell me later.
All right, moving on. Subcommittee reports. Are there any subcommittee reports tonight? We've already heard from one, and got the students taken care of. There is no other business to come before this great board. During the meeting. Thank you.